Doc 103.9, the voice of Lake Oconee. It is the Auto Show from Louis Herron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Eatonton Road in Madison. We're joined each week at this time by Louis Herron, giving you tips. I promise, take out a pencil and paper if you're not driving. Take some notes. You're going to save some money.
Yeah, we had a good show last week on the certified cars, right?
Certified pre-owned,
That's it. So hopefully people took some notes on that. And then also, if you want to be a Facebook fan of Louis Herron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, I repost these on Facebook as well. Chip does a great job and records these for me, and we can reuse them so folks can go back and listen. And you know, it's a great opportunity to get your car knowledge because, you know, at some point, everyone's going to buy another car at some point. Exactly. So at any rate, we're talking today about getting the most for your trade-in.
Boy, that's interesting. Everybody wants to get more for their trade.
That's exactly right. Everybody wants to get more for the trade. Trade's a very important part of the deal, and statistically, you know, 60% of the deals that we miss have to do with the trade-in.
Wow.
There's a lot of emotional connection to an individual's trade-in, especially if they've kept it well maintained and they've been the sole owner of the vehicle. You know, tires rotated. They've done everything they're supposed to do. You know, it gets very contentious if you can't get them exactly what they're looking for. And again, in today's day and age, like we've talked a few weeks back on the show when we mentioned about research, when there's so many different sites to look at, okay, and customers are getting values for automobiles, there's not one value the same. I mean, it doesn't matter if we go to Kelley Blue Book or Edmunds or Auto Trader or Cars.com or NADA or, you know, you name it. You plug in your car, your make, your model, your mileage, your condition. They're going to calculate different figures. Now, they may be in the range, the ballpark, but sometimes the spread can be $1,000, $1,500.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times when you're in the midst of a car deal, you lose a car deal by $1,000, $1,500. You know.
But I can see that. I mean, especially if it's one owner, I'm giving you my baby.
Exactly.
I'm giving you my baby.
Exactly.
You've got to give me X for this.
And I think, you know, part of what we want to talk about today too is just understanding what you buy is important of understanding, you know, what the market value of your vehicle is going to be and getting the most for your trade. What you buy is critical, and I don't think people realize that on the front side of the deal to look at it down the road on the back side of the deal. The benefits you get up front, it may be a detriment down the road, and we'll go through that as well. But when we come back from the break, I want to talk about if you'll stay with us, you'll get some tips on how to get the most for your trade. You're trading a car in, you want to get the biggest bang for the buck. What's the way to go about doing that and making sure you get the most for your trade?
Interesting. We're going to have it to you from a dealer's perspective. Very interesting. Stay with us. It is the Auto Show from Louis Herron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Chip Linus and Louis Herron on Doc 103.9. Doc 103.9. Back at Louis Herron, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Having a great time. It is the Auto Show. We really enjoy it, and we thank you very much for listening each and every week. You know, we're talking about how to get the most for your trade-in. Mm-hmm. And that you know, that's important. That is really important.
Well, there's a couple of things, you know, the obvious things that we'll touch on very quickly, not now at the end, is the cleanup and the reconditioning and the tires and what you think you should do with that. That's not even what I'm talking about. Here's something, that you wouldn't understand unless you really thought it through when you're talking about getting the most for your trade. I think one of the big things is getting the most for your trade is understanding up front what the market is. And here's what I mean. What's going on in new cars versus used cars? Is used cars flooded right now with inventory, or is it a big new car market? These are things you can research and look. So in other words, if your level of expectation of what you think you're going to get based on the research that you do can kind of put you in line. Another thing, seasonal vehicles. Okay, so you've got a convertible in this December, and you're looking at a Kelley Blue Book or whatever, and they're telling you the car's worth X. You need to understand in the dealership world, a Camaro SS black on black, beautiful car convertible in Atlanta is not going to bring the same money as it would bring in Las Vegas or as it would bring in Miami, Florida. Even seasonally in Miami, Florida, again, the amount of those trades that come in. Because think about it, what the dealership is looking at is when they take in the seasonal car, so to speak, they've got to liquidate this car in 60 days, or we have negative equity, like a consumer experiences when they trade, right? So you put so much money in the car, if it didn't sell in 60 days, you got to take it to the auction. Well, when you're talking about December and January and February, people aren't looking for convertibles until March, April, May. Now, conversely, let's say you're in March and you got that SS black on black. Now, all of a sudden, that car becomes a real hot commodity.
I got you.
Right? So, again, it goes both ways. It's not just a way where you're looking at, you just getting hurt on the deal. The other thing, fuel economy, getting the most for your trade. You got a F-250. You got a Ram 3500. Fuel economies, 100 whatever a barrel, and next thing you know, it's $3.97 a gallon. That's going to affect the trade value. It doesn't matter what a book says on the car. It doesn't matter what NADA says the car's worth. The car's worth is what somebody's willing to pay for it. And if the gas prices are through the roof, not a lot of people are shopping for big trucks or big SUVs. They're holding off and they're waiting, and so that inventory stays stale and sits on the ground. So again, these are little things. Supply and demand. How many are in the market? In other words, let's say you've got here's a great car, a 3 Series BMW, white with tan interior. There are gazillions of those. If you go online on Auto Trader as an example, they're all over the place. Well, if you're trying to get top dollar for that BMW, it's in great shape, white on tan, 30,000 miles, 1.5-year old. It's a nice car. The problem is there's 150 of them in a 50-mile radius.
I got you.
So it's just basic supply and demand. These are things that I don't think consumers would think about when they're going to trade their car, and they realize, man, I'm not getting as much as I want for this car. Just understand conceptually, the fuel economy, the market, what's going on, new versus used, the supply and demand of those particular cars that are in inventory, the seasonal car that you may have. The other thing is in closing is if you have an oddball car, and I say oddball, it wouldn't be odd in Portland, right? But let's say in Greensboro, a Subaru would be, an Outback. We don't register 2000 Subaru Outbacks in Greensboro, Georgia, right? You go to Portland, Oregon, you go to Rhode Island, Subaru's everywhere. All right. Yeah. So I'm using that as an example. I'm not saying someone's got a bad car if they got a Subaru, right? That's a nice car. But again, if you're trading that car in, okay, and you're trading into a marketplace that doesn't typically trade for those cars, don't typically sell those cars, it's going to be hard to get top notch. Now, if we knew someone in Portland, we can call them up and say, hey, we're going to ship this car to you. What's it worth? They may pay all the money for that car.
I see.
Right? But then we've got transportation of $1,000 to get it across country or get it up to Rhode Island. Right. So we got to take those things in consideration. But as a dealer, I can tell you, if I'm looking at a car like that, I'm immediately calling dealers that I know in New York, somebody in Oregon to figure out, hey, I need more money for this car, because I already know if I call a buddy in Atlanta or if I call somebody in Orlando, they're not going to give me much more money than what I'm putting in the car.
I got you. Louis, let me quickly flip it. If I've got a seasonal vehicle, if I'm a buyer, December might be a good time to come on the lot and say, I want to look at your convertibles.
Give you a great case in point. We had I mentioned the Camaro SS because we had one. It's now we're beginning of the year. It's cold time of the year. This car sat for 90 days. Okay, I ended up getting rid of that car at 78% of its value. In fact, the customer who bought the car had an uncle that was a wholesaler in Warner Robins and said, I can't buy that car that cheap. I buy cars wholesale and flip them to other people and make $300-400. I cannot buy that car that cheap. You need to go buy the car. I had the conversation with him right outside under the canopy. He was happy, got a great deal. I took the hit, but you know what? He got a great deal because that car had been here over 90 days. And in a slow time year, that thing's not getting. It's not bringing more money in March.
I got you.
It's going down in value.
You've got to get rid of it, but the guy that's buying it knows, hey, April, May's going to be here.
That's right.
And I'm going to get the deal I can.
That's right.
All right. Always a great deal at Louis Herring, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. It is the Auto Show. Chip Linus and Louis Herring back after this on Doc 103.9. The Auto Show from Louis Herring, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram is back. You can catch it every week right here at this time. I guarantee you're going to save some money if you listen and take the tips to heart. We're joined by Louis Herring, and once again, we're talking about getting the most for your trade-in.
Now, we talked earlier, the last break, about some of the things that you need to understand with seasonal and gas price, supply and demand, what sells good new, sells good used. We didn't mention the fact that, understand, if you bought a car for $10,000 off, okay, when it was brand new and you go to trade that vehicle in, realize that's saying 10 grand off, that depreciation is going to hit you when you trade that vehicle. So have that expectation. It's a good thing to get great deals like that. It's a fantastic thing. But just know if you trade the car in 3 or 4 years, I mean, those cars, depreciate dramatically because of those discounts.
I see.
Now, now some obvious things, because this break's a little bit shorter, just so I can get them in for the folks that are listening. Obvious things. Number one, if you're trading in your vehicle and you want to get the most for it, have some service records. I can tell you, if you bring in a vehicle that has a stack full of service history, the used car manager feels a lot warm and fuzzier about putting some money in that car. When we know the car's been serviced, if it's been serviced at the dealer you bought it from that you're trading it from, that's even better because they have all of it on file. The service technician can say, hey, it's a perfect car. The assistant service manager says, hey, we know Mr. Johnson well. That's a great car. It's been serviced. It's been tuned up. It's been tires rotated, oil changed. Everything's perfect on that car. That helps dramatically when you're going to get the most for your trade. Second thing, clean the car up, but I wouldn't overly detail it. I wouldn't pay all the money to get it pristine. We see cars all the time that are rough, and we see cars that are extremely clean. The detailed job doesn't convince the dealership to pay you another $500 for the car. We can see through the dirt, right? The nick, the scratch, the ding. Make it presentable. Make it presentable, but I wouldn't go through a bunch of madness. I will say this. A lot of people look at, tires, putting, tires on the car and, replacing certain things. The only thing I would say to the consumers is the dealership can get it done cheaper. So if the dealership can get it done cheaper, why would you spend $600-800 to put a set of tires on to get a little more trade evaluation when we could have put it on for less money and use that in the appraisal to give you a few more $100, right? Mm-hmm. Bad Carfax. I would be very, very understanding that if you're going to get the most for your trade, the first thing a dealer's going to do is how can we retail this car? So they're going to pull a Carfax or an auto check. They're going to pull the history. Mm-hmm. They're going to check this vehicle out. And you're going to authorize in most stores, you're going to sign off on the Carfax or the auto check that is true and verifiable to the best of your knowledge. Because when we sell that vehicle to somebody else, they're going to be able to see and sign the same exact Carfax that they're receiving this used car, and they understood this is who had it. And so if it has a Carfax issue, that's going to hurt the value of the car. So, but in fairness, if you buy a car that's pre-owned that has a Carfax issue, you should be able to get a good deal on that car. Now, there is a few different levels. There is slight, moderate, and severe. If your Carfax has a severe on it, it's going to dramatically change your appraisal because severe could be mainframe damage. It could be all kinds of things. Moderate, that's where you're really going to have to justify what happened to the car, what's going on with it. If you have any insurance documents, hey, it was just a front bumper. We just replaced the bumper. Here's the body shop bill. Nothing else was done. No radiator damage, nothing like that. Anything that's slight. A slight Carfax typically is not going to hurt, not going to kill the appraisal, but you will get a little something off. And even if you look at Carfax, they'll even itemize a lot of times a dollar amount, $600, $800, $1,200 less for the car because of the value. So, again, those are some obvious essentials as far as keeping your service records, bringing them in, understanding the Carfax, not going overboard with the cleanup. Don't try to replace tires and door handles and because the dealer can do it cheaper, and if we can do it cheaper, then obviously we could pass that on to you in some ways as well.
I learned something in last week's show how it could help with get the most, have both key fobs when you trade it in.
That's huge. Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at, again, we talked about it on the front side of last week's show with the CPO, certified pre-owned vehicles, they force you to get the newer items, the new floor mats, both key fobs, and when you buy a pre-owned car that's not certified, you get what you get. Right. So if you've got a car that you're trading in with both key fobs, that's a big deal to a dealership. Those things are expensive, Jim.
I know.
Those things are $300 a piece.
Couple $100, yeah, at least. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So if you have two, that means the dealer won't have to go out and buy another one before he sells it.
That's right.
All right, we're back. We are the Auto Show, and you can catch it each week at this time. Money-saving tips on how to get the most for your trade-in. Back in just a few minutes. This is Doc 103.9. Doc 103.9. Chip Linus back, joined by Louis Herron. It is the Auto Show from Louis Herron Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And before we go any further, you don't have to call the station. Country is Hasn't gone anywhere.
Now he's with a customer.
He was just getting somebody indoctrinated into the country club. He'll be back next week.
That's exactly right. He's roaming over here like we had food at the table or something. I don't know. He likes to be on here and say his 2 cents. So he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that he is back. He hasn't gone anywhere, and
But we need to give a shout out to some of the other guys, Paul and Tim and Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks, you don't want to get on the air, do you, buddy? He says no. They're sitting next to us here. Some of these guys are a little intimidated, but they got the face for radio, though.
Yeah,
they could do a good job.
Well, they'll get you a good deal, and that's what's important.
Absolutely. So a couple of things to note as we close the show down. I don't know if those that are listening know this or not, but the philosophy of how dealers sell cars, it can be all different ways. I want everyone to know that my salespeople are not on commission. That's a huge difference. Their salary base, and so the benefit to the consumer is really the salesperson is not incentivized by making more money. That's a big piece to the car puzzle. And again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, that's it's like anything else. I mean, commission's commission. The more margin, the more you make, right? Same thing if you sell a house. There's nothing unethical about it. For me, in a car transaction, to me, the customer feeling at ease and understanding that they're dealing with somebody that's helping them buy the best deal, getting the best equipment, and feeling the needs of them versus feeling the needs of their pocket, I think makes a big difference. So note that as you go shopping around for cars down the road, come visit us out here at Louis Heron Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We got great people, no pressure, and we really work hard on being fast and efficient and not being hanging out with you for 4 or 5 hours by car, you know?
And maybe the takeaway from that, Louis, is other dealers do pay on commission, and so if you go to 100 dealers, there's just going to be 1 or 2 that do not.
Yeah, I'm not. I get feedback from a lot of my colleagues and folks that are in the industry. They think I'm crazy to do it that way because the thought process is if a guy's on salary, what incentive would he have to sell cars?
Right.
What horsepower would he have? But again, for me, culturally, I think if we can stay with them, and again, me being in the showroom and being with the guys every day, I'm gonna push them. I mean, I'll make sure they're doing what they have to do, making the phone calls, and these guys love working here. So, but to them, it gives them peace of mind, not having to stress about selling a car. They still have goals to sell cars. They still get rewards from Chrysler if they sell new cars. We still have contests that we do. So there's still incentives that they can hit that get them excited about trying to be the number one guy. You know. So at any rate, they wrapped up another show.
I always love it, and you're always gracious. It's a great place. But let's mention the service again. If you're not in the market to buy new or used, if you got a car, you need it serviced.
Come check us out right here, right across the street from Chick-fil-A in Madison, Georgia. We're off I-20, exit 114. You can't miss us right on the right-hand side. We do service all Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, but also we'll service any other product. We've got great people here that work on Highline, BMW, Mercedes product. We've got guys that work on Toyota and import product with like Lexus and Nissans and Kias and Hyundais. So we got the whole gamut. And if you'll go to our fan page on Facebook, you'll see every month coupons for 10% off, buy 3 tires, get 1 half off, get 1 free. I mean, we do all kind of stuff. So, but it changes. So you got to go online and be a fan of the Louis Heron Facebook page.
Very good, very good. We're back with you next week. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
Country will be joining us next week as well. This is the Auto Show from Louis Heron Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Eatonton Road in Madison. Catch it every week right here on the Voice of Lake Oconee, Doc 103.9.